My name is Sam Cohen. I was born in 1922 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and grew up there and volunteered for the service in 1942. I joined the Air Corps, and I was in the Air Corps when I felt I should try to be a pilot, which I wasn't really qualified for, and I wound up being accepted at OCS at Camp Davis, North Carolina, in the anti-aircraft artillery. When I graduated from OCS, I was sent to Camp Stewart, Georgia, and while I was at Camp Stewart, I married a girl that I had been going with for a couple of years previously, who was also from Philadelphia, and she came down and stayed in Savannah, Georgia with me. A while later, it seemed that they called everybody, all the officers that weren't in the infantry, and sent us to Fort Benning for an infantry, a basic infantry course. And at that time, I went to Fort Benning and took the course and came out, and I was a second lieutenant in the infantry. I was sent to various camps, and I wound up never going overseas. When I was supposed to go overseas, we were going to go to Japan, and the war was over, and they sent us to Fort Dix, and we were at that time discharging other soldiers when they had enough points. When it was my time to get discharged, it was in 1946, and there was a rumor at that time that if you signed up for the reserves, that you would get out a few days earlier, which was fine with me because I was interested in getting out of the Army and getting back to my wife and getting along with my life. In 1950, I was called back into the service, and they sent me to Fort Benning again, and I took an infantry refresher course, and in 1951 I was sent to Korea, and they sent us by ship. I arrived in Japan in April of '51, and after a couple of weeks, they flew us to Korea, and I was assigned to the 17th Infantry Regiment. And when I arrived, they got me near my location, which I don't know where we were, but my platoon sergeant was down at the bottom of the hill waiting for me, and he walked me up the hill. And I met the company commander at that time, and I found out that the next day I was going to lead a platoon in a patrol. My company commander was a fellow from Detroit by the name of Miller. We always called him Buzz Miller. I'm not sure what his first name was. And then we had a fellow came after me, a second lieutenant by the name of Jack Larkin, who was from Sioux Falls, South Dakota. We had a couple more officers in our company, but I can't remember their names. I took out the patrol the first day, and nothing very eventful happened. After that, things settled down, and there was some artillery fire that we went through, and And one day, I think it was in July, that one of our companies in our regiment had tried to take a position from the North Koreans, and they failed to take the position, and they sent our company up to see if we could take the position.
You know, I don't think you ever told us what company it was. All right? Can you give us the name of the company?
I was in Able Company, 17th Infantry Regiment, and I was the platoon leader of the 3rd Platoon. My platoon sergeant was a fellow named Ray Lane, who was from Harlan, Kentucky. When when they told us that we were going to have to try to get this position, that the other company weren't successful in attacking, I remember we got up very early in the morning, and we had already drawn rations the day before for the 3 meals that we were going to have that day. And they fed us the 3 meals before we went on this mission. They spent about 2 hours with the artillery firing on this hill that we had to take. And then we got on tanks, and they drove us to the base of the hill, and our company started to go to try to take the hill. They were firing at us, and there was small arms fire, and there was artillery fire coming down on us. And I remember not feeling brave, but I knew that my job was to try to get up there and safeguard the men. And I was running around kicking the ass of these guys, trying to keep them down so that they would be successful. And we were successful. The only sad thing that I remember is that I was on the way up, I stepped on a couple bodies that had been left there. They were our soldiers that had been left there from the last attempt to take this position. And I did get in touch with the battalion to let them know to come and take these bodies away. But anyway, we settled down. When we got up to the top of the hill, the North Koreans had fled, and they were no longer there. And we settled down, and we put the panels, that we put on top of our positions, so the American planes would know not to bomb our position. But it made it let the enemy know where we were, so there was an awful lot of artillery fire coming in, and I still can hear the earth tremble, as the artillery came in on us. I remember some of the places that we were. I know we were at the Iron Triangle. We were at Wachan, I think, and Chunchan was someplace nearby, and it's like really different. I had people that I knew that were stationed in Seoul, and they knew they were in Seoul. I mean, we were on the line most of the time, so we didn't know where we were. And mostly we came down off the line once in a while to get a haircut, and then we'd go back up the hill and do our fighting. And I lost a couple of men. We had a couple of men in a foxhole, and one of them was supposed to stay awake and watch to make sure that nobody came nearby. But I did lose a couple of men who both were asleep, and the North Koreans or the Chinese, I'm not sure which it was, came up and killed them. So I did see some of our own men get killed. My men. The men in my company were excellent soldiers, and there was nobody that was pessimistic about having to be there, and they all did their job very, very well. And I think that was the reason that we didn't have too many casualties, though I feel like maybe I prevented some, because on a couple of the attacks that we made, I ran around like I was invincible. Not that I was brave, but I felt like that was my job. And I sometimes laughed at myself, thinking that here I am, a married man with, at that time, 2 children, and running around exposing myself to enemy fire. But it was my job, and I tried to do my job. And the men were good men, and whenever they would send us some liquor, which I wasn't allowed at that time to drink, I was able to give it to the men and give it to my platoon sergeant and make them happy. And we drew beer rations, and I gave that away too. And I try to keep my men happy, and in most cases they were. Our regimental commander at that time was Colonel Quinn, who I never personally met in Korea, and he was called Buffalo Bill Quinn, and in his honor, everyone in our battalion, I suppose, I know at least our company, was trying to grow a mustache. I mean, some of us couldn't and some could. I did the best I could, but that was one of the things that we tried to do. And it was very easy not to shave, because being on the line most of the time, there wasn't too much time to shave. The winter, it's a shame I have no pictures with me, but I have pictures of me trying to shave in the winter with snow in the background. They had snow. It was like winter would be in Philadelphia. It wasn't all that cold there, as it didn't seem to me. You know, maybe you get used to it, or you have other things on your mind. You know, having to worry about whether you're going to live or die the next day doesn't make the weather so important. But when I got there, we went through the summer in April and May and June and July, and then in December it was cold and we had snow. And near the Jewish high holidays of 1951, which took place around October of 1951, a notice came from the battalion wanting to know who was Jewish that wanted to attend services that were being held at Seoul. And I went, and we had a platoon sergeant that was from one of our platoons. I think he was in the 2nd platoon, and I forget his name right now. And in our company, there probably were about a half a dozen people that were Jewish that went to services in Seoul, and they put us in a truck and drove us to Seoul. And I was put aside because the Jewish officers were housed in a certain place. I think in Seoul University, they had a barracks that they had the officers in. And as a matter of fact, I met some friends of mine that were in Korea at that time who were attending services. In fact, one of them was helping to lead the service, a fellow by the name of Bobby Rosen, who was also an officer. When we had our orders to go back to Tokyo. We were going to fly back to Tokyo, and we had just gotten a new sniper. I think it was called an '01 rifle. It was a beautiful rifle, and Buzz Miller took and packed that rifle up and took it with him. We were friendly with our battalion commander, though, whose name I can't remember right now. And when we were in Tokyo, waiting for transportation to fly back to the States, there was a phone call that was for Buzz Miller, and it was our battalion commander in Tokyo, in Korea, calling up and telling Buzz that he was going to have to be sent back to Korea to return the rifle that he had confiscated for himself. But it turned out just to be a joke. And I don't know, to this day, I hope he's living, but he probably still has the rifle that he took from Korea. When we finally got back, we landed at San Francisco, and while we landed, on the way we stopped at Hawaii, Honolulu, and then we went to San Francisco, and in San Francisco I called my wife and told her that I'd be home, and when I arrived at the airport in Philadelphia, there I must have had 20 of my family waiting there for me. Everybody, of course, had been worried about me, and I had a wonderful greeting, and I have some pictures that were taken at that time of me arriving and my family greeting me. And that was a wonderful, wonderful feeling to have come back and be safe. And I think that I was most happy that my mother and father were there, and I felt that they wouldn't have to worry anymore, because I know that all the time that I was away, they, probably more than my wife, were more concerned about my welfare than anyone else. And that just gave me a good feeling that I was home. Not so much that it was bad enough when I was there, but it wasn't the worst, because I was very fortunate, wasn't injured at any time, and participated in the action and did the job that I was supposed to do. I was in Korea from May 1951 until February of '52, and at that time I was discharged because, being in the inactive reserves, I had to be sent back within 18 months of the time I was recalled to active duty.